What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by only one Titan this week. Only one. The other one is getting schmizzed in Vegas. It's the unimportant member that's out of the way this week, so this is going to be a guaranteed banger of an episode. Jurg, you're with me here this week. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Nothing much, bro. Nothing much. I'm happy. I'm in a good mood. I'm always in a good mood when it comes for us, like time to record and stuff. But I don't know. I'm just feeling really good today. I mean, we're still a long ways away from this. Like, there's no milestone watch, but we are very slowly coming across 2 years of doing the show. And like just thinking about that, it kind of just brought me back to the first episode we did when it was just you and me before we brought Dame on. So I just kind of got a throwback there. It almost brought a tear to my eye. Some nostalgia here. I love the nostalgia.
You know, the fact that you said that we're almost on 2 years is kind of absurd right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're dead as doing 2 years. Like, the 2020 draft was our
Yeah.
first episode. That was the LaMelo Ball year, right? When he got
Yeah,
wow,
it was,
holy
and the funny thing is that we're still, because of what happened that season with everything, because it was pushed back. We're still a ways away from 2 years, but 2 years, like around this time, like it was summer of 2020 when the discussions to create this podcast actually started.
yes,
That was like, just thinking about that now, bro, and it's already been 2 years. That's absolutely insane.
it's absurd. Sometimes the views and subscriber count isn't up to your liking, but we do it for the fun of it. We do it for the fun of it. We do it to chat shit with our boys. Um, But I'm having fun doing it. I know
Yes,
you
sir.
are. I hope Dame is. Even though Dame doesn't sound like it, I'm pretty sure he's good with it. He's good with it. But
Dame is lovable on the inside.
yeah. But this is gonna be a hefty week because we are coming off the heels of NBA free agency, and there was a lot of movement, a lot of trades actually that occurred. So just anarchy in the NBA world. And it was going to be an NBA dominated episode this week. However, something occurred in the NFL. A trade occurred in the NFL. Baker Mayfield is finally getting traded. So we're going to talk about the Baker Mayfield trade, and then to start off, and then we're just going to move on to NBA, and then we're just going to we're going to go off on like NBA movements and transactions. So that'll be like the rest of the episode. But we'll start off with the NHL. Wow, NHL. See, force of habit, Jerk. Force of habit.
Nothing for the NHL. I will say this: by the time this episode is out, the draft will have happened.
Oh,
So
okay.
there are rumblings
Mm-hmm.
that some big trades could potentially happen
Okay.
during the first round of the draft. A couple teams. I'm not going to go in depth here. I'm not going to waste our time, but there are a couple teams that are picking within the first half of the draft that are rumored to be interested in trading their picks, and there are a couple players that could end up being traded, like within the first round, if not maybe even on day 2 of the draft. So like I will say this actually could be a very active NHL off season that we could have here. Well, match NBA free agency, of course, because KD, but like
Yeah.
this NHL off season actually is proving like it could be very intriguing for the league, and that'll be covered more in depth in future episodes.
Yeah. I mean that means that there's a formula that next week's episode might be a banger as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Summer of Somewhat Sports 2022, just anarchy everywhere. I love it though. I like talking about this shit. All right, but let's get to it. Let's get to the episode. NFL trade occurred.
Yes.
Baker Mayfield finally gets traded to the Carolina Panthers. And Jurg, the deal, I believe, is an unconditional 5th-round pick
Hmm.
that you said before we got on live could be a 4th-round pick,
Yes.
depending on how many games he does play.
It's more so snaps. I don't think people
Okay.
do games anymore. I think it's if he plays. I think that number I saw was 70%.
Hmm.
If he plays 70% of the Panthers' offensive snaps this season, then that pick will be upgraded to a 4th-round pick.
Oh, okay. So, I think that's actually decent. I think it's a decent clause that was added because I know Baker's health was like a kind of a topic of discussion, especially over the past year. So I think it's a decent like trade off. Um, and then I believe was there money involved?
Yes. So what the breakdown was is that the Cleveland Browns agreed to pay $10.5 million of Baker's contract for this upcoming season. Because remember, it's on the 5th-year deal, so it's just this one season. So Cleveland has agreed to pay $10.5 million of that deal in order to facilitate this trade to the Carolina Panthers. I don't have the exact number in front of me at the moment, but the Panthers agreed to pay just under $5 million of that number. I want to say it was, or I have it actually right here. I just picked it up. $4.85 million of his salary, and then the last portion of it will be converted into incentives in order to help facilitate the trade. So 10.5 million the Browns pay, just under 5 million the Panthers are going to pay, and the rest of it will be incentives, probably based off of maybe more maybe more snaps for the Panthers, maybe like stats, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I like from what I read. Yeah, Baker took a pay cut to make this happen. But yeah, it finally happened. And we, funny enough, we actually talked about the Baker Panthers rumor a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Um, and now that it's finally happened, it's so surreal to talk about because I feel like Baker has been in the trade rumors for God knows how long, and it finally happened. The football season's not that far off, actually, which is kind of absurd because it feels like the Bengals and the Rams played yesterday, but. Yeah, look, we kind of already talked about this, and you guys could check out our thoughts in that episode. It's a few weeks back, actually, but it's not too far back. Yeah, so I think my thoughts on this were, so Baker and Darnold are on the same team now, right?
Yep.
That's going to be a funny situation. Off rip, yo, when you compare the deals for like Baker and Darnold, man, Jets got a haul, bro. When you look at it, in my opinion, off rip, I was like, Baker has to start. I feel like he has to. Like, it's inevitable that he is. I know they're probably going to play it off as like, well, we're going to see who like performs well in training camp, who has, a better off season, this and that, whatever the terminology they use. But I know they're not going to concretely say, that's not a word, I don't know if it is. They're not going to concretely say who's going to be the starting quarterback. But I don't know. Just when this trade happened, I'm just like, it's got to be Baker. Like, there's too much noise, too much smoke. I don't know if they'd go, they'd be considering Baker this hard for him not to be the starting quarterback. And the Robbie Anderson thing is mad funny now that we look at it.
Oh God.
Because it's going to be weird because the chemistry between Baker and his teammates, I feel like it could go one or two ways. It's already off to a rough start because Robbie Anderson doesn't want to be there, even though he said, "Don't pay me into that narrative." He tweeted some shit like that,
Yeah.
and then he kind of defended himself in the press conference, saying, I was just defending my teammate, my quarterback, which is Sam Darnold. I'm like, okay, bro, whatever. I find it difficult to see Darnold starting over Baker here. But now that it's happened, it's gonna be weird because like it creates such a weird tandem at the quarterback position because we talked about it. Baker should start over Darnold. I think Baker is better than Darnold. There's gonna be some noise, some rumblings on like who should start. But I do think Baker should eventually start.
Right.
But like now Darnold goes to the backup, I think, if you do that. And it's just like, I don't know, like what happens to like the locker room? We'll go down to the chemistry after that. And then they drafted Matt Corral, I believe, in the draft. So they're they're loaded at QB, even though it's like, an average to mediocre quarterback depth. But I don't know. It's going to be fun to see this play out because you don't kind of know what route they're going. If I had to guess, they start Baker instead of Darnold. And Matt Corral, I think, is going to take a few years before he actually, becomes something. But I do think Matt Corral has decent potential. I do think he has a decent ceiling. But does it make them better? Slightly, because we don't have the highest expectations for Darnold. I do think it slightly makes him better. But look, he's on Matt Rule's offense now. He's going to be with an offensive-minded coach. So I do think I won't be surprised if this is a decent season for Baker, obviously, especially coming off last year. So I think regardless of what kind of season he has, obviously, unless he has like a really shit one, I think compared to last year, it's going to look a lot better. But now that he's got an offensive-minded coach, he's going to have some weapons now. And that's not to say he didn't have weapons in the Browns, because he did have some weapons in the Browns. But I don't know. That was a weird tandem. And I also think him and Kevin Stefanski didn't look eye to eye, even though it kind of seemed otherwise. But he's going to be with Matt Rule now. I just think because of all the shit that happened with the Browns, it's kind of gave him perspective. And I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here because, especially because the market was so low for him. I think it's going to give him perspective. I think he's going to make adjustments. And also, like we always talk about this, and it's cliche as hell, but I think it is true. A change of scenery really is for the better here. Baker kind of knows that he needs to change the perception of him. So I think it's the chip on his shoulder. It's an offensive-minded coach. You have an all-star running back now. you do have decent weapons. It's not like you're because the Panthers on paper aren't a bad team. I think they're actually a good team. So it's not like you're going to a bad situation. You're going to an actually pretty decent roster. And I think if this roster lives up to its potential, Jurg,
Hmm.
and they have improved the O line, they have improved the O line as well. They could be flirting with a playoff appearance. I think if everything goes well, that if it's huge, they got to call it the injury bug. They started off the season last year pretty well. It was like 4-0, and then they just kind of unraveled. Then
Right.
I think Cam Newton pulled up. I think if this team hits its stride, it's a big if. I think they're flirting with a playoff appearance, and I think it'll look good for Baker, who will be looking for a payday. The only con, well, I mean, there's going to be multiple cons, minor cons, but the con here that I'm looking at primarily is the quarterback situation. Like, how does this affect the chemistry within the locker room? How does it affect Sam Darnold? I mean, Robbie Anderson's what your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 is
Two.
that?
DJ Moore's number one.
DJ Moore. Okay, I forgot about DJ Moore. So like one of your main weapons is already skeptical about you. So like I wonder how this is going to affect the chemistry on the field. But off rip, I'm a little mixed. I think it's they're a little bit better than they were yesterday. That's all I'll say. It's not saying much because Sam Darnold was their starting quarterback, but that's all I got to say about it. I know I was kind of all over the place, but yeah, Jerk, how do you feel about the trade, the package, and what do you think of the Panthers stealing now with Darnold there, with Baker there as their starting quarterback?
So the package, I wasn't necessarily surprised because you got to think about it. Baker being in the final year of his deal, that fifth year option being fully guaranteed, it's tough. And even though the Panthers had the cap space, they don't want to necessarily pay that entire thing because I'm sure they're probably looking at the trade deadline during the season to maybe make another move. So I wasn't surprised by that. I think for the most part, it's fair. It really does make it funny looking back at the Sam Darnold deal, all things considered. But I think just timing, situation, and again, when teams do this, Chris, where they devalue their own asset to the point where you can only ask and get so much back, to where the Panthers are like, yeah, we're not going to pay a lot of that. B, we're not going to give up a lot because A, you've burned that bridge with him, or as I've said on the show, you nuke that bridge with Baker. And even though Baker kind of hinted to, maybe there's a chance of reconciliation, but he wasn't going to start it, nor should he have. Like that's fully on Cleveland to fix the situation if they had tried to, because Deshaun Watson, once again, like that whole situation is barely playing out. So I wasn't surprised at the end of the day that that was the package and that the Browns had to, pay some of that salary, because I think that's always going to be what was going to happen in a Baker trade. The Browns were going to pay at least half, which they do. They pay $10.5 million of that 18.8. And I think the draft compensation is also fair. I think it was also always going to be based off of like how much he was going to play, because he has had some injury issues in the league so far. So ultimately, the parameters don't shock me. Maybe the exact capital going back surprises me, but at the end of the day, once again, you devalue your own asset. What are you going to get back? And you're in a no-win situation because that dude's not going to play for you. So I think it was a low risk, high reward move here for the Carolina Panthers. They didn't have to give up much. Like, even if Baker does end up playing the 70% of snaps, it's only going to become a fourth round pick. Let's be real here. Like, fourth round picks, we always talk about guys who are like, oh, they were drafted in this round and it was great by the scout. It's hit or miss with these later round picks. Like, yes, some of your later round picks end up becoming Pro Bowl caliber players. Some of them don't even play for the team that drafts them. So it's very much a hit or miss. And can you trust the Cleveland Browns to hit on that draft pick? History shows that, that's kind of 50-50 now at this point. So we'll see about that. In regards to what I think about the Carolina Panthers with Baker, I think he does make them slightly better. I find it funny that since the both of them entered the league, Sam Darnold and Baker are actually 1 and 2 in interceptions thrown. Baker's number 1, Sam Darnold's number 2 on that list, and Sam would probably be number 1 had he played more last season. I think with Baker there, I think you get a little bit better of a player. I think he's shown, in part because of greater sample size, that he is a bit better than Darnold, but not by leaps and bounds so far in his career. And I think him going to Carolina, let's be real here, this is kind of like a last chance saloon here for Baker to prove that he could be a starting caliber quarterback in this league at this point. I think Baker and Darnold can both be very viable backup quarterbacks in the future. To me, if you've started at least one full season in the NFL, or two, at least two in these guys' cases, I think you can make a case of being a good backup quarterback. So I think both of them can still have careers as backups. But obviously, being the former high picks they were, and of course they personally want to do more than that. But I think this is Baker's shot to really prove himself here, of course. And there are some weapons there. On paper, it really depends because, especially that last season, just everyone was getting hurt. Odell and him were just completely off sync, as we know. And I'm saying all this right now. I've showed before, like I'm not necessarily like I've tried to defend Baker in moments, but between him and Odell, I really did think that was more of a Baker thing, and even Kevin Stefanski as well. I think like Kevin Stefanski's name hasn't really been brought up a lot in these conversations. I think his name should have been more because I think Kevin Stefanski and that offense not performing as well as it should have. I think his name deserves a little bit more blame that I think he's not being accredited. Um, so here you have DJ Moore as that number one wide receiver. You have a decent tight end situation. You have, I think, Marshall Jr. is there, who they drafted last year, him coming out of LSU. I think that they could, if Matt Rule can use him properly, they could really unlock something out of him. The health of Christian McCaffrey is going to be critical for this team. It Baker had Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in Cleveland, these last couple of years, and we really saw how that Kevin Stefanski really tried to do as much as he could with the running game, and that they really relied on that running game. I think it's going to be a similar thing here. Chuba Hubbard is there. He's a very good, powerful back, and you have the two-way game of Christian McCaffrey. Like they're going to rely on their running back still here. I think there's some potential here. I think DJ Moore, if healthy, he's easily better than what we've seen from Jarvis Landry and Odell the last couple of years. I will say they need to get him more production because he's had each of the last 3 seasons. He's only had 4 touchdowns in each season. DJ Moore, 12 touchdowns over 3 seasons. That should not be the case. He should have 12 touchdowns in a single season. That's how talented DJ Moore is. So they need to do a lot better of a job of getting him the football, especially in the red zone. I think there are pieces there. The mind is there. I think Matt Rule, a lot of people think this could be it for him. I'm still kind of 50-50 on if this is really a hot seat year for him, because I don't know if Dave Tepper, the owner, is going to be willing to pay that big of a buyout just after 3 years. I think he still has at least 2 years, like including this upcoming season. So we'll see there. But this is certainly, if you're talking about the quarterback situation, it's a last chance between Darnold and or Baker. Like there's no denying that. I think it does slightly make them better. My only thing that I'm kind of iffy on is how good of a team they're going to be. They take on the NFC West this year, and they also take on the AFC North. Between those two divisions, there are 7 good teams potentially, maybe just 6, depending on what the Browns situation is, and if they're starting either Jacoby Brissett, Josh Dobbs, or Deshaun Watson. And what a ranging option of
Josh Dobbs, baby.
Josh Dobbs, yes. Former Jacksonville Jaguar and Pittsburgh Steeler. But I think that, for the Panthers, with those teams, you got the Saints, who are looking to be a playoff team again. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady there. It's just, it's rough, man. Like their schedule, like for Baker being there, it's tough. I think their only saving grace is potentially the fact that the NFC on paper is looking like weaker than usual. I think there's only one division you can more than confidently say there's going to be multiple teams out of it in the playoffs, and that's the NFC West. And then to me, it's an open book from there. I think the NFC South, you can argue for the Saints, but you could also see how the Saints could fall apart. The NFC East, I only see one playoff team at most, potentially. And the NFC North, I only see one playoff team. So it is kind of wide open, really, when you think about it, which I think is great for the Panthers, for Rule and them. But I don't know about the team success. I think this is for Baker. Like if Baker can put up 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, and like 10 or less interceptions, like if he puts that up, I think he'll have fixed things. I think he'll have proven himself really good again, and I think that he will have earned the job for the foreseeable future. And Sam Darnold, probably this ends up being his last year in Carolina, all things considered. Now, if people start getting injured, all hell breaks loose, and we'll see what happens there. Maybe Matt Corral gets a chance in the last 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season if both of these guys are hurt and Christian McCaffrey's out. Like who knows? Like health. This is the team that really health is going to decide a lot of factors here. Baker's health, Christian McCaffrey's health, DJ Moore. He doesn't necessarily have injury issues, but just the health of the pieces around him is going to depend on how he does. Robbie Anderson could go retire for all I care. I could not give a singular shit about him on this team at this point. But yeah, I think the future for the Carolina Panthers on paper is better, but I'm gonna take a step back on them because this is a rough schedule they got on paper, man. Like this is kind of an unlucky season for Baker.
It's a wait and see approach.
Yeah.
They play week 1.
Yeah, they play the Browns week 1. That's why Baker should start. The revenge game's right there.
Yeah, but it's also a chance for Myles Garrett to eat Baker Mayfield because
very true.
You never know.
And Ward could pick him off 2 times.
It's true.
Oh man, that first game, Chris,
it's gonna tell so much, bro.
No, that first game is only gonna go one of 2 ways. And I kid you not, either Baker's going to go for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, or the Panthers or the Browns are going to pick him off 3 times and sack him 6 times. It's one or the other. There is no in between.
You know what I love about this is that a random game between the Panthers and the Browns just became must-watch television.
Week 1.
Week 1, week 1. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I think it's what the NFL needs. I'm looking at the NFC right now, Jurg. So Rams, Cardinals, 49ers are those three are locked. In terms of just like in terms of like who's better
Okay.
being better than the Panthers.
Yeah,
right?
that's fair. That's fair.
And also we don't want to spoil like
You're right.
yeah. So those three I'd put above the Panthers. I'd put the Bucks. You're gonna put above them, so that's 4. Packers above them, 5. Do you I would put the Eagles above them. That's 6.
hmm
Do you put the Cowboys above them?
Dallas lost a lot, man. Like, I think on principle I would put them, but not by a lot. Dallas lost.
I'm actually gonna put them to the side right now because I'm also with you. Um, Saints are also a wait and see. I think the quarterback situation is kind of fucked. I do think they have done a decent job,
hmm
replacing Michaal Thomas surprisingly because I do think they signed.
Well, not replacing him. They're like he's still
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be
yeah,
there.
to I guess alternatives.
Mhm.
Who did they sign
Yeah.
recently? Who did they re-sign recently? It was a wide receiver.
They didn't get Jarvis?
There we go, Jarvis, and then they drafted Chris Olave.
Yes.
Yeah, so they've made some decent moves at the wide receiver position. Signed Tyrann Mathieu. Like that team, the Saints. Like I think the Saints. Again, I just don't trust Taysom Hill. They could be good. I
Well,
can't.
it would be Jameis. Like he
But
should be
he's
back.
out for a bit, right?
No, I thought he'd be back by now. I everything I'm seeing, people
Well,
are
no, because
projecting
I know he
Jameis is
got
gonna
hurt.
start.
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you watch off-season training vids, you always think like they're doing good. But like, well, he got hurt late in the middle of the season, and
No, it was only like week 5 or 6, I think. Like that's plenty of time to come back from an ACL, I think.
well, let's just say that he's not going to be there right away,
hmm
right? So the Saints, I would categorically put them next to the Cowboys in terms of if I think they're going to be better than the Panthers. Just uncertain.
hmm
But other than that, and then of course I do think the Vikings might make some noise as well. So there's 6 teams that I would put ahead of them, and there's 3 teams that I would put them on their level. That's if the Panthers pan out,
hmm
right? I think it is doable because I do think you're right. The NFC is actually open now. Cardinals, they're going to be without Hopkins. Um, Vikings.
I got a hot take about the Cardinals when it comes time. I'm not gonna say it, but I'm just
Okay,
saying.
okay, we'll save it. And then the
Yeah.
Vikings, you never know. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. So it's unpredictable. I love it though. I absolutely love it. It's just, yeah, we don't know where this is gonna end up. It's gonna be very fun to watch though. Yeah, Panthers Browns week 1. That's gonna be awesome.
I will say, like, just final note about this. I think this really brings up the conversation again of what's going to happen with Jimmy G because he's
Oh my God, he's still on the roster.
still on the 49ers. I think he only recently just got the procedure he needed on his shoulder, so he's not necessarily going to play for you immediately if you trade for him. Like that's a very complicated situation to say the least. Like he could be on their roster, but I don't know if he's going to be the starting quarterback week 1. Like. Ugh.
I mean, it has to be Trey Lance. It
Has
has
to
to
be,
be.
yeah, at this point. And if Trey Lance performs well the first couple games, I think Jimmy G is like just done.
Trey Lance doesn't even need to be great. Just be decent. You know that it's just. Oh man,
Just be
that's
more
also.
versatile. Like Shanahan has worked with so many quarterbacks like Jimmy G. Like if Trey Lance even shows the potential of being more than that, he's gonna keep the starting job. Because
Yeah,
let's be real here. Like even though Jimmy G's been like you could say Jimmy G's better to this point. Obviously he's played more, but if you're talking about talent on paper,
yeah,
this is why sometimes it's hard with football fans because there's a difference in like the debates. But talent wise, Trey Lance has more like football talent than Jimmy Garoppolo. That's not a question.
sure, for sure.
He's got the stronger arm. He's got the more electricity to be able to make these like high caliber plays that Shanahan would want. That's just a fact. So we'll see.
Any final comments? Are we done? Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. The NFL will get its time in the sun here. Don't worry. That's what the fall is for. Let's get to the NBA.
Yeah, because there's a lot of movement. All right, Jurg, free agency come and gone. Basically, I think the heat of it has come and gone, but it's still going on. And so much stuff has happened. So much stuff. Tampering is not a thing anymore. Um, Agreements are made like weeks in advance. Weeks in advance, bro. It's just so fun to talk about. It's so fun to talk about because like the league really shifts. There's so much stuff that happens, and we have some stuff to talk about. Now, Jurg, I'm going to bring up some deals. We'll talk about them, and then after we clear the list, if you want to bring up any moves that did occur and you want to talk about them, you could also bring them up. This is like a free discussion, a free form, open mic, baby. So some of the deals I have right away, and I do like to talk about the like kind of the low key players. They're not crazy low key, but we know the Zach Levines and the Bradley Beals of the world have re-signed. We're not going to talk about Bradley Beal. We've done that ad nauseum. I don't want to talk about that loser. Zach Levine re-upped. Congrats, Bulls. First round exit forever. You locked up with that core unit. I don't care about Bulls fans right now. All right, PJ Tucker signs with the Philadelphia Sixers, 3 years, $33 million. Jurg, I got to say, man, knowing your role will have you paid in the NBA.
Oh yeah.
And shout out to PJ Tucker. He's going to be paid till he's 40 now after, battling in the trenches of Siberia, just in the cold, just going around the world playing basketball professionally, and then finally making it to the NBA. He deserves this money. I'm so happy. PJ Tucker is actually one of my favorite players, man. I love PJ Tucker. And I know like every team's fan base falls in love with him every time he goes to that team. So
Yeah.
I'm happy for him. In terms of like the fit, I think it's wonderful. Gives the Sixers some defensive versatility now. I believe he'll start at the 3. I think Matisse Thybulle will move to the bench if he's not traded. So off rip, we're looking at a Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid lineup. I do think PJ Tucker adds like some much needed defense to that lineup. Actually, I know Embiid carries his own, but like on the perimeter, PJ Tucker's there. Makes up for the shortcomings of James Harden and maybe Tyrese Maxey, but I love it for him. I think the contract's not entirely bad. You were gonna have to pay to get him. PJ Tucker is not a slouch. Like he knows his role. It may look like a meh contract at the last year because he'll be, I think, 40 when it expires. But look, we talk about this. The Sixers championship window isn't as wide open as people think.
Correct.
PJ Tucker is a championship player. He does thread the needle. Not a crazy amount, but he does move the needle a bit. He's a winner. I do think the fit is great. I think they need him. I think he's going to make a huge difference, especially in the playoffs. But it also depends on Embiid's health. It's a win for both sides, actually. Obviously, it's a win for PJ Tucker because he gets paid. But I do think it's a win for Philly. They also got DeAnthony Melton from the Grizzlies. It was a trade. I know it's not free agency, but it seems like, depth and again, this moves Matisse Thybulle to the bench. Depth was an issue for Philly last year. Their bench was awful, I think. So, you get some depth there. Who knows? I heard there's rumblings about them going towards Eric Gordon, but it seems like Daryl Morey's trying to recreate the Rockets with Embiid. And I see it, but yeah, I'm hyped for them, but also like it's the Sixers at the end of the day, right? It's just like second round ceiling galore. And I hate to be that guy, but you know what? Let's just talk about the free agency move. I think it's a good move for them. It's a good move for PJ Tucker. What do you have to say about that?
No, yeah, I agree. Like PJ Tucker is an amazing veteran player. I like you, further in PJ Tucker is amazing. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
He is a championship player. He was on the Bucks when they won their championship in 2021. He didn't play a lot of minutes. I don't think of their playoff run, but he still he played
Hugely important.
Yes, whenever he was out there, it was for a reason. Great perimeter defender, helped defend Kevin Durant in that second round series against.
Oh
the Nets.
yeah.
So PJ Tucker has proven himself to be a worthy player in Miami as well. Like I'm gonna miss him because very very reliable perimeter defender, rebounder, corner threes are his specialty. So Philly's gonna get plenty of corner threes there. It sucks that Miami had to lose him. Yeah, I know at the very end the Heat were trying to show him that because of the lack of state tax in Miami versus Philadelphia, even if he just signed for a little bit less, it still would have been a pretty equal amount, but he just wanted to go to the 76ers. It sucks to lose a player like that for sure. Philadelphia is getting a guy that he can play with superstars. I think that's the thing with PJ Tucker.
Yes,
you say to yourself, like as a role player, if you can prove that you could play with superstars on a consistent basis, that'll keep you in the league for a long time. And PJ Tucker can do that in spades. He can play his role. He's done it before with that specific superstar. I think it's Harden specifically. I think it's a great move by Philly. There's not much else to say there. Like they have we feel that their championship window is a lot, is not as good as they think it is, and they're trying to extend it as much as they can. And this is the kind of move you do for that.
For sure. So I'm not gonna give a letter of grades. I just think it's a good move for both sides. Lou Dort re-signs with OKC, 5 years, $87 million. I think a lot of people saw this deal. He re-signs with OKC. I think a lot of people saw the number and they were just like, Lou Dort made that much money. I don't think people understand the importance of Lou Dort here. And a lot of people who were taken aback from this deal probably don't watch OKC games. Let's just be real here.
Yeah.
But I think if my math is correct, which it is because I'm using the calculator app, 17.4 million a year. I think Lou Dort deserves it. I think his defense and his 3-point shooting has improved a lot, substantially. But his defense, and again, it's OKC, man. Like, they're gonna overspend to keep their guys. Like, they're not gonna get anyone crazy in free agency. So I think he's massively important to that OKC team. Now, if they weren't running a Ponzi scheme to try and get Big Vic, in the draft next year by hoarding picks and shutting down players at the second half of the season, then this would be maybe a different conversation. But like, is it a bit of an overpay for Lou Dort? Maybe. But I don't mind it. I don't mind it because of like OKC and the market they are, the failure to attract free agents. You want to keep your guys. Lou Dort is genuinely really important to them on both sides of the court. Actually, he's the main guy on the defensive end, and he alters the game with his defense, right? So I think he continuously gets better. I don't mind this. I don't mind. For him, it's a great story because, like, considering where he started at, how he looked in like that series against the Rockets in the bubble, where he was
Yeah.
just ass from three, comes back the next year, becomes a way better 3-point shooter. He was already great defensively. You put him on any person, they're gonna have such an off night because of how good he is on the defensive end, man.
They
He
gotta
is
work
that.
for it. Like
You're gonna work for it when you go against Lou Dort. So I don't mind this deal. I really don't. Like, there's the evidence is there that he gets better every year. Continuity is so important for like a young core, and I think Lou Dort being there, locking him up for the next 5 years, I think adds to it. And I'm pretty sure the coaches love him, teammates love him. He'll like in a lineup where it's Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren now. I don't know what their center position is, and then Lou Dort. He is much needed, especially on the defensive end, because those guys aren't the best defenders. So Lou Dort's gonna have to carry his own on the defensive end. So it's like defense alone makes the contract, I think, worth it. But I just think he is just improving on all cylinders, and I just think he is huge to the OKC team, and especially for the young core. That's just me. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I have said this on a number of podcasts recently, and like the last couple of weeks, whenever we talked about it, like, when you're rebuilding, it pays off to have some veterans on the team to help round out the core, to help show the young guys what to do.
That's crazy. Lou Dort's a veteran, bro.
Yeah, I mean, on this team, he technically is. Like,
Yeah.
and it's funny because he's only like 25 years old or 24 years old, so he's not that old. But just having other players there, we've said this: you cannot have a team of 15 rookie and sophomores. You need more than that, because not everyone's going to reach their potential. So I think this was a great signing by OKC. Like you said, people need to realize that $15 million is the going rate for a good starter now.
Mark has changed. Salary cap has changed.
The salary cap in all sports is always changing, but like the NBA especially. Like I saw this, Chris. I think it was 2016 or it was either 2016 or 2017. Mike Conley got that 5-year like 150 something million dollar contract.
Yeah, and then Jokic
just got 5 years to like 270 essentially.
Yeah.
Like that's over a span of like a half decade, 6 years. Like times change, and $17 million is not your all-stars and superstars anymore. It's your good to great starting players, and that's how it works. So I think Lou Dort's proven that he's worth the money. He's become a 3-and-D player. Like you said, he's very much improved as a 3-point shooter, and he's just like the right guy to pair around with young players. He's not going to take shots away from them. He's going to play within the system. He's a coach's dream. Can't say enough good about this signing. I think this is an amazing thing for him. I hope that, and people also talk about how if OKC ever pulls off a big time trade, that he could maybe be salary filler if need be. I would hate for him to be traded. I think he should be a piece that OKC wants to keep.
Yes,
because of him doing the little things. But if the situation does arise and you need to put salary filler, he could also be for that. But
for sure,
assuming like you want to keep him no matter what, amazing signing by OKC.
Yeah, I mean, like he seems like a PJ Tucker breed to me.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like pretty funny that he's like the name after PJ Tucker. But I think you're right, Drake. And I think the theme of this and the theme of like a lot of discussions in free agency, I think a lot of people, and this happens to me a lot. And I have to explain it to my dad because he's also interested in all this stuff because he also watches sports. But like, I think a lot of people, when they look at deals, their mind is still stuck in like 2010, 2012 salary cap.
Right.
When you see like a not an average player, but like a slightly above average player get 20 million a year, you're just like, damn, bro, we got 20 mil. It's an overpay. But when you look at like where the cap is going, CBA's changing all the time. It's like 20 million now is what, like, and I'm bad with inflation, like 13, 14 million back then, maybe 15.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, so it's just I think it's difficult because you have to adjust your mindset when you're looking at these numbers because it's not 2010 anymore. Like people are going to get paid and it's not a bad contract because and I know a lot of people aren't looking at, salary cap stuff from like teams. I just think they look at the number, they look at the player, they're just like, "Oh, that's it." And it's weird because like everyone kind of falls for it and it's just like it leads to very like difficult discussions with people
It shows
because
who the
like
real sports fans are. It shows who really
that is
follows the
true.
leagues.
It's but then there's also casuals that like you can't like explain to them because they're not interested, which is perfectly fine. But like I do think it's important to like take notice of the ever changing CBA rules and the ever changing salary caps rules. So overall, we're big fans of Lou Dort getting paid. Anthony Simons re-signs with the Blazers, 4 years, 100 million. Jurg, again, I don't know if it's a decelerating contract where it goes down over time or it's goes up over time. The reason why I'm saying that is because I'm actually seeing a lot of instances of that. Maybe towards the Knicks because their contracts have been decelerating, where a player starts to get like 27 million, and then last year they get like 23 million, which is pretty decent like cap strategy. But nevertheless, um, we talked about this. It's smart for them to keep Anthony Simons because this is your guy that you're gonna build around post Damian Lillard.
Yep.
Whenever that happens, I don't know, and I don't care. I'm not wasting any more breath on whether or not Damian Lillard's going to stay with the Blazers a year or two in. Don't care anymore. But Anthony Simons, 4 for 100 though, Jurg. What do we think? I know this is kind of contradicts what I'm saying because like I talked about how like the number isn't as crazy now that you look at it in 2022 standards, but I did not think Simons would go for 100 million. I thought maybe 4 for 80,
Right.
but 25 million a year for Simons for a team that is looking to, I guess, compete. I don't know about this.
I think
Yeah, go ahead.
so. My thoughts on it, like you said, there's different ways to structure contracts. I think what the Blazers could have potentially feared. Now we haven't seen this in a while, but what they could have feared is that a team would offer Simons a contract and they would try to poison pill it. Remember when Jeremy Lin
Yes,
and
yes,
Omar
yes, yes,
Asik
yes.
and guys like that were again lesser players, but years ago, the Houston Rockets did this to get these guys. I forget, I don't know if it was Houston or somebody else, but I think no, the Nets tried to do it with Tyler Johnson in Miami. They poison pilled the deal where the first 2 years were 5 million each, and the last 2 years were like 15 million or something like that. And God, I still have nightmares about that deal to this day. But the like maybe the Blazers could have feared that a team would do something semi-similar where maybe the first 2 years would be significantly less, but the last 2 years would maybe be significantly more or something like that. Or at the end of the day, they're just like, hey, we don't want to just waste our time with negotiating. We just want to get this guy locked up. And they're like, we're going to keep you and make him an offer he can't refuse. And literally, ain't no one is refusing 4 years, $100 million. You show me that money, I will sell my soul to get 4 years, $100 million. So that's just how it is. Money talks at the end of the day. And like you said,
Yeah,
Chris, like he's so young to the point where he only just turned 23. So by the time this contract ends, he'll just barely be 27. And you can sign him to
jeez,
another deal after that. He's going to sign his second big boy deal in the NBA before he turns 30. That rarely happens,
it's
actually.
wild.
That doesn't happen that often. So for this, I think it's maybe some people you could argue it's a bit of an overvalue. Again, this is my personal credo. I don't like to call guys overpaid. I only like to say if the market overvalued them.
That's a
Um,
good point. Yeah.
I think that maybe the market could have dictated Portland overvaluing Simons. But like you said, I think just his value of being that secondary scorer off the bench when they need to sit Dame. If Damian Lillard gets hurt, which we saw him get hurt this past season. So there's that. And if they eventually decide to blow it all up, he's the perfect piece there and you have him locked in long term. And it's also showing early loyalty to him. Like, look, we're willing to pay you this. So if things go wrong, please stay here. Like, you have to do that. Because remember, at the end of the day, it's I've talked about this on other podcasts. There's a little bit of a hidden tax. It's not a real thing, but a team like Portland, a team like Milwaukee, like, yes, they've been good teams, but they're not the most ideal cities. You got to pay a little bit more to keep these guys.
Yeah.
When the whole Drew Holiday thing was coming up, and when he got that big extension from Milwaukee to stay, like, part of the reason that they got to pay him that much is like, we're asking you to stay in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for 5 years.
All right.
Part of this is, with Anthony Simons, all due respect, I've never been to Milwaukee, I've never been to Portland, but you're asking him to stay in Portland, Oregon for 4 years. I don't think that's an easy ask of someone. I'm sure Portland is a beautiful city of roses and all that, but it's not near the coastline. So
The thing is, bro, I don't know. Is the mindset different for younger players like that though? Because he's about to make generational wealth.
and maybe that could just be it at the end of the day, where like maybe he was just going to stay in Portland no matter what, and
Right.
this is just what happened. Like that, it could also be that we just don't know it.
Right.
But I'm willing to bet that Portland just told itself, like, if this guy performed and we need to get as many people here as we can, like we need to do what
Right.
we can. And again, at the end of the day, also very similar to Luke Dort. If Anthony Simons can be a part of a deal in the future to get you a superstar caliber piece, maybe that's
sure.
the case.
For
So
sure.
if a certain guy in Brooklyn gets traded to Portland, you could trade a guard back there. Part of the deal.
Well, not now, right? Because I don't think Simons can get traded.
Well, is there a moratorium? Like, did he officially sign it yet? Like, maybe can they sign and trade that thing?
I don't think they would.
I don't know.
I think
I'm
is
just
it December maybe? I think it's December
It's
from what I
December.
remember.
It's December 2022. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, who knows how long the KD saga will last? Okay, but yeah, shout out to Simons for getting paid. Okay, Dante DiVincenzo signs for 2 years, $9 million with the Warriors. I'm surprised he didn't get a lot more than this. Actually, not a lot more, but like just a bit more. Now, Jurg, I'm at that point of understanding things. Golden State lost Otto Porter Jr.,
Yep.
Gary Payton.
Yep.
Did they lose someone else? I feel like they lost someone else.
Those are Juan Toscano Anderson.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. But they lose a lot of these role players. We're at that point where the Warriors, every season, they always make like these like subtle moves that make up for like these other minor players leaving. They're just a team that like this happened when they were like in the KD era where like the veterans would come in for a year, win a ring, whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's at the point where they're just like they're a desired destination, obviously the Warriors, but like if a young guy who has potential but has like kind of hasn't had the great start to their career are like on a prove it deal, they're just like, you know what, screw it, let me win real quick. Let me win. We're at that point now, right? So it's went from like veteran signing to Golden State to now young guy signing to Golden State because I do think the Otto Porter Jr. signing was like pretty decent for them. I know Otto Porter Jr. isn't on the younger side, but like I think they're going to be at that point. And I think Dante DiVincenzo was kind of ushering that era for me. Maybe I'm looking too hard into it, but he is exactly what the Warriors like want in a player. He fits their system. I think this is an absolute steal for them. I think it makes up for like the players that they kind of lost. I know he's more offensive oriented than Gary Payton, but like Otto Porter Jr. leaves, whatever. You get Dante DiVincenzo, dude. This is a beautiful signing for them, and I think he's gonna thrive in that system. Again, 2 years, $9 million, not the craziest deal, but it's also not nothing. 4.5 years. I mean, $4.5 million a year, not bad. I think this is phenomenal for both parties now. I think Dante DiVincenzo. Look, you sign with Golden State. They will make you look very good. You'll compete for a championship, rehabilitates your career. And when you're a youngin' like that who has potential, it's the best thing possible for him. So I love this move for him. I love this move for Golden State. It's just great organizations, man, make great moves. Smart organizations make smart moves, man. Like this is, but it's also it's on the player to make that decision to join them, right? Because you are sacrificing some money. I'm pretty sure maybe he got like a better offer from maybe you got a better offer from somewhere else because DiVincenzo's not bad. I think he
Right.
showed a lot of promise in Milwaukee, but hey man, this is what's up, bro. I love these type of like the OP final boss just has that chuckle of just like, all right, you guys, the landscape is always shifting. Looks like we got worse because we lost some minor players that did have an effect, and then you just signed like a DiVincenzo, and it's just like, huh, wow. Like it's just I can't hate on the Warriors anymore, man. Like
True.
that's old Chris, bro. And I'm pretty sure you were at that phase too, not probably as much as me, but like it's so like it's fun to see like the old wise man just like stay put and not get phased, and then they make moves like this, and they're just like, yeah, that's why you're kind of goaded.
Yeah. Yeah, they're staying modern with the times. You said everything there, bro. Like this team went from signing just veterans to now taking the approach of these former mid first round or late lottery guys who want to sign 1 year deals to prove themselves to maybe cash out later in the future. Let's take advantage of that while we can because the system we have, we can put guys in and out. And that's the thing. I know some people in the organization weren't happy with the fact that Gary Payton II left, but at the end of the day, Dante DiVincenzo, yes, is Gary Payton a better defensive player than him? Yes, but Dante DiVincenzo is still a very quality defensive player. He's got size. He's good length, and offensively he could be even better than Gary Payton Jr. because we've seen flashes of Dante DiVincenzo offensively. Like he got hurt. A lot of people forget the playoff run where the Bucks won the championship. He got hurt in
Yeah,
game 3 or 4 against the Miami Heat. Sat out the rest of that playoff run. And you could tell last season he was still trying to work his way back from injury. Then they trade him to in a 14 deal for the
Kings.
Sacramento Kings. And God, Sacramento is the death of so many young players' careers. I like his time in Sacramento is probably the reason why he probably couldn't get a bigger deal than maybe he was hoping for. And so he's just like, you know what? Let me wash off the Sacramento stench and let me go
Uh-huh.
somewhere where you get that championship glitter on you.
Literally.
And that yeah, and that's what the Golden State Warriors is. And he's gonna go there. He's gonna be there for a year, maybe 2 years, depending on like how things work out. Like maybe if he gets dinged up a little bit or underperforms, he's still got that other year with the organization to make some bank. Like this could work out very well for him there. And like you said, like he fits with that team. He's the thing with Dante DiVincenzo is that he's kind of like to a lesser extent some of the players we've already talked about, but he can play with superstars. He's going to understand his role if he's ever out there with Steph and Clay. Like the big thing is to get them the ball. But if he also runs the bench unit with Jordan Poole, I think he'll also understand like, okay, Jordan Poole is the main guy who's going to take shots. Let me help
Yep.
set him up. Let me set other guys up. Let me set up like Jonathan Kuminga for some wide open dunks in the lane. Let me set up Moses Moody for this 3-pointer on the wing. Let me set up James Wiseman for the alley oop if James Wiseman can ever get goddamn healthy. Like it's things like that that Dante DiVincenzo can do, and that's what the Golden State Warriors see. He's like this is as close to a perfect puzzle fit of a role player or
Right.
replacing your previous guys on a title team that you can do. And props to Golden State, man, because we talked about before, championship teams struggle with replacing guys that they lose. Golden State just never has this issue whenever they
Never.
win. It's amazing.
It's probably the best team to play on, man. Let's be real. It's just you get better, but like it seems like you just have fun.
Yeah.
Like as corny as that sounds, like damn, bro. Shout out to them. Shout out to them. I just yeah, it's just a great move for them. Okay, I think this is a good segue. Not really so. Actually, let's talk about Brunson. Should we talk about Jalen Brunson?
Let's talk about it a little bit.
Okay, because this is a big discussion. The Knicks space, which I'm a part of. Here's the thing. I think when you look at like the deal Anthony Simons got, right? And I
Hmm.
think it's been a topic of discussion, A, because it's the Knicks. B, I think a lot of people are split in between. It's just like, they got a point guard. Some people are fine with it. Some people think it's a crazy overpay. So, Jurg, I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are as a Knicks fan here. And then I guess you could kind of like give your outsider's perspective. And, we'll just discuss this from a civil perspective. And I know Dame didn't like the deal. Dame hated it.
Hmm.
He's on the side of like it's an overpay. So Jalen Brunson, I think, is a very good NBA player, right? And
Right.
I think uh, he had a coming out party in the playoffs. I'm looking at it now. So it's a small sample size this season. I don't know if I have the numbers like all time, but without Luca, he has. I got you right now.
Hmm.
Oh, actually, no, I have both. So this season, the one that just passed, Jalen Brunson in 17 games without Luka Doncic averaged 20.4 points, 7.5 assists, and 3.9 rebounds. Right,
Hmm.
small sample size, but it's pretty good numbers. All in his career without Luka. Right, I got the numbers: 16.6 points, 6.3 assists, 3.5 rebounds. Honestly, not bad. Right. Again, Jalen Brunson is a very good NBA player. So I think from the Knicks standpoint, and this was just I think the writing was on the wall because they signed his dad as like a coach. I think Leon Rose is his godfather. Leon Rose's son represents him. He's his agent. So like the writing was there for for Jalen Brunson to be a Knick. I don't, and he's 25 years old, so it's not like Brunson's old here, right? And the Knicks, they they finally get their point guard. They have the connections with him. Brunson seems to be on a trajectory where he's improving every year. They seem to be banking on the idea of him reaching a ceiling without Luca, right? And the evidence is there, but looking at it from afar, he's if he's your primary point guard, it's a little bit different now because full time now, the defense is going to shift. The game plan is going to be around you. Now, again, I don't know what's going to happen to Julius Randle. I pray to God that he gets traded, but like Jalen Brunson, you're going to have a certain defensive attention towards you that you didn't have in Dallas, right? And I know like the thing with Dallas is that the difference between Dallas and the Knicks is that Dallas had a lot of 3-point shooting, right?
Right.
It's hard to game plan against that than it is against the Knicks, who kind of struggle on the shooting end, right? The gamble the Knicks are taking is that we're banking on you becoming that player without Luka. We believe it because that's what the money says here. And could I see him panning out? Absolutely. I do think Brunson could be good. Is it an overpay for Brunson? I do think it ultimately is. And I know leading up to it, I'm just like, oh my God. Because the numbers that were being discussed leading up to this signing was 4 for 110, which is
Mhm.
like north of like 30 million. I'm like, Brunson is not worth that. That is almost max money. Why are we overpaying for Jalen Brunson right now? And I think he's mixed because I think a lot of people think he's not worth the money. He was going to get paid regardless. Again, apparently it was said that he wasn't going to take a meeting with Dallas. Miami swooped in last second, but apparently that was untrue. My biggest fear was that the Knicks would outbid themselves, like to go above and beyond, right? If he's an unrestricted free agent, you don't need to like go like crazy with the money here. And I thought 110 was a little OP. Now 104 isn't that bad, and from what I've read, it's likely going to be a decelerating contract where it's like you start with like a big number like 28 or 27 and it goes down, which is why I brought up earlier in the podcast. So if that's the case, if it's a decelerating contract, I think that's very enticing for possibly a future trade down the line, right?
Right.
So in that regards, if that's the case, big plus. Is it a slight overpay? I think it depends on who you ask. I think it seems like an overpay now, but again, hindsight could be 2020. You're really banking off Brunson being a really good, like a phenomenal player without Luka. Maybe not phenomenal, but great, right? And I do think the evidence is there. I need to see it though. I need to see it because you're in a different situation now. It is New York. Again, right now, Julius Randle is on your team. Because you're going to be the main facilitator, I do think there's a little bit more freedom in his game. So I think the writing's on the wall. Everything's there for him to kind of unlock his potential. You're going to have a good running mate in RJ Barrett, I believe. He's going to actually, this one thing he didn't have in Dallas, you're going to have a center in Mitchell Robinson, which I think is going to make his life very easier because he hasn't had a chance to be a good playmaker that I think he actually is in Dallas because of the lack of size. But now that the Knicks locked up Mitchell Robinson, so you're going to have your center, you're going to have some running mates, you're going to have a lot of youth on your side as well because the Knicks actually do have a young core. My final issue with this, Jurg, is
Mhm.
that the Knicks telegraphed this so much.
Yeah.
Stop making it so obvious that this is your number one target, bro.
Well, so much so that the NBA is going to look into them tampering.
That, but everyone's tampering, man. But this happens with everyone. Like, I don't understand. Whatever. At that point, whatever. We already gave them so many second round picks to shed
Yeah,
Kemba Walker.
they're going to take like a second round pick in 2035 from you guys.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I think that whole idea is stupid, But, I just hate how obvious they made it.
Yeah.
Like, don't make it seem like it's only it's Brunson or die. Can we relax? This is what I didn't like, and I don't like this like thing where it's just like, well, they you got to give them credit. They made it known he was their target, and they got him. I'm like, bro, what? Shut up, son. It's like I don't. No. It's just they telegraphed it so much. Like the whole league was like expecting this. Because the thing is, when you make it known that that's your guy, right? It leads you to a limited path. You have to give up a bunch of second rounders. And I know they're second rounders, but second rounders could be valuable, man, and a trade asset, and like they could pan out down the line. You have to give up a plethora of second rounders to get rid of Kemba Walker's salary, to get rid of Nerlens Noel and Alec Burks, who are considered negative assets. And from a PR standpoint, doesn't look great because they signed him to contracts last year. So you have to make all those moves, had to give up these minor assets to make room for Jalen Brunson. I think those players needed to go regardless, and I do think, irregardless of Brunson, they needed to give up some capital to get rid of them because of their contracts. But I just didn't like the fact how much they telegraphed this move. Like they made it just so obvious. So to conclude my thoughts, because I know I'm all over the place, I like Brunson. I like that he's their starting point guard. I do believe that he has a higher ceiling. Is it an overpay off rip? I think so. Could it seem like not an overpay one season in? Like maybe next year we're talking about this. Of course, there's always a possibility. But I've also seen players get their bag and then just fail to live up to the potential. The reason why I'm not that worried compared to like a Julius Randle, because Julius Randle copped the bag last season and then like you know where he is now. I think the mental makeup is there for Brunson. I think he's actually built for it. I think he's actually smart. He's not gonna throw bitch fits like Julius Randle. I think right now I'm a little bearish, Jurg. I'm bearish.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly, but I think there's a good chance I'll be bullish on it next year. But like, I don't hate the move. Ultimately, I don't hate the move. And speaking for Dame, Dame hates the move. But go ahead, Jerk. What do you think from an outsider's perspective? I know I just rambled for a bit. My
Right.
bad.
Right. Well, I will say this because you mentioned like Leon Rose being his godfather and freaking them hiring his dad. If he doesn't sign there, this would have been like the grandest Shakespearean tragedy betrayal we have seen since like Hamlet's uncle killed his own dad to become king. It's like
Jesus Christ, Jerk. Would it be wrong if I said that if this didn't happen, I think I would have been a little happy?
oh man, but like I don't blame you. Like this is the thing to what you said. Like it's a good thing for the Knicks to acquire a player of Brunson's talent level. I think the way they went about it was not ideal. Um, like you said, I think the biggest flaw here was the fact that they singled him out so much to the point where it was only them bidding on him, and Jalen Brunson then knew it's like, okay, I can get as much money as I want here because they've made it clear they want to get me, so I can kind of hike up the price a little bit, and it went from 4 years, 100 mil to a little bit more than that. I don't think it reached the 4,110 from what I've seen on Spotrac. It's only 4,104, but
Yeah.
still, like you kind of to an extent box yourself into where it's like, okay, like they're gonna pay for him. And I think those quote unquote last second meetings he was getting was just to try to scare the Knicks into giving him that little bit more money. Yeah, no,
I know. I think it's because to like decrease the tampering attention.
yeah, true. That's a fact. And Miami was just like, no, like
Yeah. I don't know where that came from, actually. That was weird.
that was Pat Riley telling the Knicks, yeah, you can go F yourselves. You're gonna get this tampering charge on you. That's like we did last year with
Yeah.
Laurie.
We eat ass. You have to eat ass too now.
And it's always through Dallas because Mark Cuban snitched on Miami with Laurie, and now this is happening with his player to the Knicks. It's freaking Mark Cuban, man. He's just costing everyone second round picks. So the deal itself, kind of like you said, I think this is a little bit of an overvaluing. I know Jalen Brunson has his stats. I actually do like Jalen Brunson, but he's got a lot to prove now that he's going to go to New York. He's going to be like the Knicks have been wanting a point guard. Chris, you can attest to this. You and Dame have both said on the show you've been waiting for a point guard to be a real playmaker for a long time, and I think Jalen Brunson can be a playmaker. But now it's very much different between being the secondary playmaker on the Mavs with Luka there, and now you're the primary playmaker in New York City when RJ Barrett is a decent playmaker, but he's still more so of like a slasher trying to get his own buckets and defense.
Right.
And Julius Randle is Julius Randle, and I'll leave that well enough alone. So it's a lot of pressure on Jalen Brunson to handle the passing load offensively. And I think he has a chance at that. But at the same time, there's more pressure on him now. Whereas it just that's ultimately it. Just there's like you said, there's more pressure. People are going to be Jalen Brunson. Good luck with the Knicks fans. That's all I could say because
Oh yeah.
if he has a bad first game in the Garden, if this boy shoots 5 for 15 and only has like 5 assists in his first game at MSG, Knicks fans are going to thrash him on social media, and I hope he's ready. Remember, Julius Randle last year, man. I've always had one of my close friends who's a Knicks fan tell me this. It's like last year when Julius Randle's son, it was his birthday when Julius Randle was an All-Star and the Knicks made the playoffs. They were saying happy birthday to his son. This year the Knicks suck. It's Julius Randle's son's birthday. Knicks fans are on social media like, yo, we don't care about your son. We care about how you play, bro. Shut up. Like that's how Knicks fans are. So
And to be honest, Randall hasn't given us a reason this season to be
sure,
happy for him because he's been a bitch. But you
very,
go ahead.
very true, but still, it's a son.
Yeah.
Leave the kid out of this. But at the end of the day, like, just good luck to Jalen Brunson with dealing with it. Like, um, you wanted to, and I'm not saying this as like him having anything against Luka. I don't mean to portray it as that, but guys, when they break through, they want to get compensated and they want to get more of a role. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Brunson felt like he should have maybe gotten a little bit more pull. But that's also at the end of the day, it's Luka, and you said it yourself, Chris, on the show, in the amazing terminology of it being a heliocentric offense in Dallas. Like Luka the offense revolves around him. And maybe it's kind of on Dallas to kind of switch that. And maybe if they could have convinced Jalen Brunson, things could have changed. But clearly Jalen Brunson is like, I don't want to play. I want to be the main guy. I want to be the guy with the ball in my hands to help decide who gets it. And I think that's probably the main thing for him at the end of the day. And if you're the Knicks, you read off the stats before. You got to hope that most recent like 17, 18 game sample from this past season can translate a little bit more to 82 games for the most part, and that he could play really well and he could get 7-8 assists on good shooting splits and low turnovers. That's the number one hope if you're the Knicks. And also Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's a warrior. He loves to play. If Tom Thibodeau plays him 43 minutes a night, God bless his knees and his ankles.
He will.
God bless, because he's the only goddamn point guard in this team right now. So good luck to Jalen Brunson on all fronts, because New York, it's not going to be easy. But at the end of the day, happy that he got paid. I'm always happy when a guy gets paid.
Again, the Knicks have a lot of work to do, because I think Brunson and Julius Randle cannot be your two highest paid players. You're not even flirting with the play-in right now. I'm sorry, it's just not. I know the Nets are in shambles when we talked about the East being kind of open. You can't have Randle be here. You can't even have Fournier be here, bro. I don't want Fournier here. Now, if I had to choose, I'd rather Randle leave, because I think Fournier is just more of a shooter, so he's easier to plug and play. But Brunson and Randle I don't think it's going to fit. It's not going to work, in my opinion. But those are my final thoughts. Yeah, let's move on. We rambled enough. So those are the free agency moves. Let's talk about some trades. We'll save the main event for last. So this one, Kevin Huerter gets traded to the Kings for Justin Holiday, Mo Harkless, and a future first. I don't know the protections on it, but
I think it's lottery protected from what I saw.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. So Kevin Huerter leaves. I think this was pretty stupid on Atlanta. They get a pick, but and who knows what they're gonna do with their assets? Maybe this is like a chess move to maybe use it in a package to trade Collins. I don't know what they're doing. I just think they're sacrificing their depth and what they're good at. But for the Kings, I'll say this, Jurg, I actually like the Kings offseason.
Yeah.
I actually like it. Traded for Kevin Huerter, didn't give a lot to get him. Mm-hmm. Selected Keegan Murray, which was the right pick for them.
Yep.
And they signed Malik Monk. 2 years, $19 million in free agency. I like their offseason. The Malik Monk thing, I think the chemistry's there with De'Aaron Fox. Malik Monk could be an awesome six-man scorer. We already know what he's capable of. I think he was one of the very few bright spots of the Lakers last season. But he's going to go to Sacramento. I think their bench deepens now. Kevin Huerter, I think Kevin Huerter will start over Malik Monk. Just to put my prediction cap on. Mm-hmm. I like the shooting here, the depth in shooting for the Kings. They get better defensively with Keegan Murray. Mike Brown is, defensive-minded coach, but he was on the Warriors for a bit. So I think he's taking what he saw there, implementing that to Sacramento. And I'm looking at a lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Harrison Barnes, Keegan Murray, and Domantas Sabonis. Yep. Nothing crazy, but I think the talent is there for a play-in. And then you look at their bench with Malik Monk and
Davion Mitchell.
Can't forget Davion Mitchell. Metu.
Rashawn Holmes.
And I'm missing someone, and it's oh my god, I'm missing someone. Who am I missing?
I mean, I'm looking at it now. I think we got everyone. You already said Harrison Barnes, so
there is. I feel like I'm missing someone, Jurg. I can't believe I'm bugging out over the Kings right now. Give me a sec.
Terrence Davis?
People gas up Terrence Davis. No, I think we're right. I think we're good on that.
Yeah.
Whatever. So,
I mean, I don't know if he's still on the roster. It's showing Jeremy Lamb is on this team for me. I don't know if he is. But.
I don't know either. I don't care either. But they acquired some really good pieces here and some shooting depth. And I think the Kings are going to be dangerous. They had a good season, Dave Yeager, a few years ago, where I'm just like, okay, they're building something. Then they let Bogdan Bogdanovic go. They fire David Yeager. They go back to being the Kings. But now I think they could have that spark from that Dave Yeager season where I think they were the 9th seed. This is before the play-in happened. I think it's there. And I love the Malik Monk signing. I think the minutes he's going to have with De'Aaron Fox is going to be really fun. It's going to be really fast-paced. Chemistry's going to be there. Kevin Huerter, I think, is going to fit seamlessly. I think De'Aaron Fox not being a shooter, and he's going to attract a lot of the attention. I think he's going to find him. I think these moves are going to unlock De'Aaron Fox as a playmaker, but I kind of like what they're doing here. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
They're a playing threat. I agree.
Yeah.
I think between Kevin Herter and Malik Monk, whoever ends up being the sixth man, I think very low key sixth man of the year candidate there, because
Yes.
you have
Yes.
Kevin Herter shooting, you have Malik Monk, who, like you said, showed some real great bright spots last year. The sixth man of the year award, I think some people are kind of forgetting what it is. It's some, like, to me, it's the sixth man who performs the best and really brings the best possible energy and need for a team coming off the bench. And I think whether it be Herter shooting or Malik Monk and what he could do scoring wise, I think one of those two, whoever ends up being the sixth man, should be a six man of the year candidate going into next season, because I think the opportunity for scoring will be there. I think, the amount of touches will be there for those guys. And if Sacramento can be a play-in team next season, which maybe they could be, because I think the Spurs are going to fall off
Yeah.
in terms of the top 10 last year. Like it could very much be the case. So I think at the end of the day, that's what we're going to end up seeing out of out of this situation here. Overall, man, I mean, it's so interesting to me. The Sacramento Kings having a good offseason, because we don't really see that a lot. So
Yeah.
it's just good for them. But yeah, like they're adding pieces there. Like, here's the thing, again, with Sacramento, stars aren't going to go there. So you need to try to do what you can. And yes, while we're still very critical of them with what happened with Tyrese Halliburton, maybe hindsight 2020, it should have been De'Aaron Fox going there and keeping
Yes.
Tyrese here. But I think now, like, this is what the team looks more competent than it's been the last couple of years, especially after they traded Boogie. And that's all you can ask for in Sacramento.
Yeah. Yeah. The bar isn't that high, but like, I don't know, man. It's just the Kings. Like, there's some competition for like the best league pass teams, most fun league pass teams. I think OKC and the Pistons are up there, but I think the Sacramento Kings are now just throwing their name to the gauntlet now.
Yeah.
I am going to be watching the Kings from afar, because I don't have league pass, but I think the formula is there, man. I think the formula is there. Man,
It's
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 weird.
there.
It's so weird because I'm excited for Sacramento basketball. And I think Keegan Murray's looked really good in the summer league, by the way. He's looked
Yeah.
really good. But again, I think I'm more interested in seeing how Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox play in the pros together, because they were so fun in college in Kentucky. But
That was such a special year in Kentucky between those two.
yeah,
They didn't
man.
win, but man, it was good.
I always thought, and I think the Kings had the opportunity to pick Malik Monk in the draft, but they passed on him. I think this is gonna be good. I think it's gonna be really fun to watch Sacramento. Good for them. Good for them. Two more trades and then we'll wrap it up. Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics, Jurg, for I believe Aaron Nesmith, Daniel Tice, and a future first. I believe I might be missing like a random player, but that's like those are the
That
main
guy's gonna get
pieces.
waived. So
Yeah. On the let's get the Pacers out of the way. You get another asset in the future first round pick. This is kind of, I didn't think Brogdon would go for this type of package, actually, because in hindsight, it's the future first that like they got, and they're just like, all right, screw it, we got an asset like that. We're a rebuilding team. Aaron Nesmith, I think, could be good for them. He was the 14th pick for a reason. He was the best shooter in the draft and that he was in, I think.
yeah,
So I think Nesmith could be a decent young player for them, especially next to Tyrese Halliburton, a playmaker of his caliber. He'll find Nesmith. I don't know if he'll crack the starting lineup. I think Benedict Mathurin might. I don't know, will be the shooting guard. Who knows what happens with Buddy Hield. But I do think Nesmith could be a decent player for them. So I think the Pacers, I know you get the pick and all, and that's the most important thing. But Nesmith, keep your eye on him. Daniel Tice is out probably. Let's talk about Brogdon for the Celtics. They get their point guard, right?
yep,
Brogdon isn't like a pure point guard, but I think if he's healthy, I think he is a solid player, very good player, and I think for the defensively he holds his own. I think he's gonna be really good for the Celtics. I do think so if he stays healthy. It's weird because like he's not a pure point guard, and I think a lot of people give Marcus Smart shit for not being a pure point guard, right? And they're just like, "Yo, we finally got a point guard." But like, did you? Maybe he's a better playmaker than Marcus Smart. Defensively, I think Marcus Smart's better. Shooting wise, I think Marcus Smart's a little bit more consistent. Brogdon, I do think, has the potential to be better on offense. But it's so weird because overall, I think if Malcolm Brogdon is healthy, I think he's the better option at the point guard position. But like, is there much of a difference though? Not sure. However, I will say this is a great get for them. This is a phenomenal get because irregardless, they'll have bench depth because one of those dudes are going to be on the bench. If Brogdon is the starting point guard, you're looking at a lineup of Brogdon, Brown, Tatum, Horford, and Robert Williams. Dude, I don't know. Celtics might go back to the finals if this pans out for them. This is a really good pickup for them. Like, even if, forget the point guard position aside, you get another scorer there. banking on him orchestrating the offense a bit to kind of take off the playmaking pressure off Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and I think he can. I think he can. I think Indiana just didn't work out. I just think there were too many hands in the pot with the Pacers, but I think Brogdon changing scenery, good coach. Um, I think the formula is there for him to be very successful. Like even if he's not gonna like from a playmaking standpoint, you got another one get his own shot. You
Yeah.
know, so I like this move for the Celtics, man. They are looking so dangerous, especially because it's not confirmed yet, but like the reports say they got Gallinari. I think maybe they have to wait. Maybe I don't know. Like Gallinari, but it's likely Gallinari is gonna go there. Gallinari and Brogdon in the offseason didn't have to give up anything, bro. Besides, like, yeah, a future first. But wow, wow, the Celtics got exponentially better, and it's already scary because like they're already really good. What do you think, Jer?
Yeah, no. So the last 3 seasons, Malcolm Brogdon's averaged 6.3 assists over the course of the last 3 seasons in which he has played 146 games. Now you would like that games played number to be up, but it's also like just sometimes things fall incorrectly for guys. And I think for Brogdon, you bring up the point that things change at Indiana. They went from being a borderline playoff team his first 2 seasons there to being a lottery team this year. And I think the writing was on the wall that they are going to trade the pieces that need to be traded this offseason. Brogdon was one of them. I think kind of like I definitely get your point of Marcus Smart versus Malcolm Brogdon, but I think the thing is that Malcolm Brogdon is not going to take bad shots when Jaylen
Yes,
Brown
yes,
gets
he's
into
not a
it.
streaky shooter. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like when you look at the finals, if you really break it down in the finals last season, like yes, Jason Tatum was bad. I would argue the next bad Celtic player in terms of like costing the team possessions next to Tatum was Marcus Smart. He had some bad shot
Yeah,
selection. He had some
yeah.
bad decision making that Malcolm Brogdon is just not going to make those same mistakes. Malcolm Brogdon, he's not a pure point guard, but he has more. I'm sorry to say this, but he has more basketball IQ. I think he has a better
Yeah, for
touch
sure.
playing with it. And again, I value guys who can play with stars and superstars. He played with Giannis Antetokounmpo for a couple of years, and now he gets to play with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Malcolm Brogdon will understand his role. He can be that guard that he can sell for just 15 points a game, and on a given night, if he needs to step up, he'll step up. Grab like 5-6 rebounds, get these assists, get some easier shots for guys. They can even run a bigger lineup here, Chris, of Brogdon and Smart in the backcourt, Brown at the
Right.
3, Tatum at the 4, Robert Williams at the 5.
Could be.
In given situations, and that you're not. That's a bigger lineup, but you're not getting slower. You still get the athleticism there. You still get, the defense of Williams, Brown, and Smart. Like the talent is all there for Boston. This was a runaway trade for them. I don't want to say that Indiana lost it. I think Brogdon could have maybe gotten a little bit more because,
Yeah.
like you said, Nesmith. I think like at best he's going to be like a rotational player for them, which is not bad. And I do hope the best for Aaron Nesmith and that future first. Kind of like you said, I think they're just adding assets to what they have at this point. But yeah, no, I think. I think for this is probably Indiana looked at the situation and it was like not a lot of people are calling because here's the thing, like despite the fact that we like to make up trades, the market will dictate things. I guess the trade market just hasn't been booming for Malcolm Brogdon so far, and the Pacers are probably like, let's just get the best deal we can and get a decent young player and a future first round pick. It's not the worst thing in the world. So, and maybe I don't think that pick had any protections on it either. So maybe that could have been a case where they don't have to worry about it. They could just get a pick straight up. I think at the end of the day, the Pacers, you still have a little bit more assets there to trade. So I think you can make up for that. I think Buddy Hield should go for a first. I think Miles Turner can go for a first. So you still have guys there that you could end up trading. TJ Warren left the team, which is the best thing for the Pacers because he's extremely overrated. Just bubble Warren, my ass. But I think like I'm not going to call it a win-win because like for the Pacers, I think they could have gotten more, but it's a decent return for a player. And for the Celtics, you got that playmaker to really help out, smart IQ player, and on a very good contract, by the way. Like he's Malcolm Brogdon, if he hits free agency next year, I think he'd be getting paid more money than what he's getting right now. I think on the current deal he's on, which is I think 3 more seasons at least, $20-some million. It's not bad. It's really not.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jurg. I think he is a way more like he's a high IQ player. That like you're right. I think the playmaking is there. I just think because he's kind of gone lost in the sauce in Indiana, I think people forget how decent of a playmaker he is. Certainly
Yeah.
with me, like I forgot how
Also,
decent
his
he is.
shot selection, like he again,
Yeah,
he's not going to take bad shots. Like
you could
that's not
tell
Malcolm Brogdon.
if you watch interviews with him, you could tell like his demeanor, his maturity levels. Like he's level headed. So okay, doesn't he have an extent? Okay, so we're going into the tournament. Okay,
He's
so the
got
contract isn't great for him actually.
he's got 3 more seasons. He's got 22.6 this year, and then 22.5 the 2 following seasons.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's not bad for a
I
starting
think for the
point guard.
Celtics, it isn't bad, but like if I don't know. It depends who you talk to be honest. But I think you're right. I do think he's a better playmaker than Marcus Smart. I would start Brogdon. I actually would start Brogdon. I don't know if that would cause some turmoil in the locker room because I do think the second half of the season for the Celtics, everything kind of shifted and they put Horford at the 4 and then Robert Williams at the 5. Defensively, though, like that's your thing, though. What are you going to fix what isn't broken, right? If you replace Brogdon, if you replace Smart with Brogdon, like the need isn't there. So I whatever decision they make, I think is fine. I'm just curious to see how the one with Brogdon works. But yeah, all right, let's move on to the main event. I would say let's keep it brief, but who knows where this takes us. Jurg, blockbuster happened last week.
Mm-hmm.
Rudy Gobert was traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? The package, I'm reading it right now, was a hefty one, to say the least, of course. So Rudy Gobert goes to the Timberwolves. The Jazz get Malik Beasley, good player.
Right.
Patrick Beverley, he might get waived, he might not.
I hope he does.
Leandro Balmero, who they got in the 2020 draft. Walker Kessler, who I believe was their pick this year.
Yep.
The Wolves' pick this year. Jared Vanderbilt, who I think we agree is a pretty decent player.
Yes.
A 2023 unprotected first.
Mm-hmm.
A 2025 unprotected first.
Mm-hmm.
A 2027 unprotected first.
Mm-hmm.
A 2029 top 5 protected first. I think I'm happy that I have witnessed a generational ski mask of a move. I was, and this is relevant, I think, because it's very important. I think a lot of people throw in the term max contracts,
right,
so often, and max players. So I'd pay him $130 million, this and that. It's so important to be cautious of who you trade for and which player you're gonna go all in for when you give up those assets. It's very important. This is why I like the Knicks standing packed, right? Not giving up all your chips for DeJounte Murray. Be very cautious of the player that you're gonna go all in for. You better make sure that boy is a star, right? I didn't mean to make a DeJounte Murray slander, but like, it better be a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander type. It better be a Donovan Mitchell type. It better be a Zion Williamson type. I'm not talking about Kevin Durant. I'm talking about like Kevin Durant's a different story. But like, it better be a player of that caliber. The Timberwolves made that move. They made that move. But they did not do it for a caliber of a Shai, of a Zion, of a Donovan Mitchell. No. They did it for Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is definitely a character in the history of this podcast.
Future Hall of Famer.
Future Hall of Famer. I mean, honestly, could be actually. To the dismay of probably a lot of people, including those in this podcast. Now, wow. Let's talk about this because we have to. Dame, I'm just gonna speak for Dame. Dame he hates Rudy Gobert. He thought
with a burning passion.
Yeah, so he obviously he's just like, long story short, Timberwolves got fleeced in his words. Okay, Rudy Gobert. Wow, I think we talk about Christian Kirk kind of shifting the landscape of the NFL free agency wide receiver market.
Right.
Rudy Gobert has flipped the trade market upside down.
Yep.
Stranger Things style, just demigorgons, all of that. Wow.
The team's trying to trade for KD is so pissed.
Good Lord. We were talking about this. We're just like, Ayton and Bridges and 3 first-rounders definitely gets it done. It might have gotten it done if this trade didn't happen. But because this trade happened, I think it's caused like a stalemate in the league right now. Wow. Let's just talk about the package here. The players, I think Malik Beasley is a decent young player. He got re-signed a few years ago. Jared Vanderbilt, I think those two kind of stand out for the Jazz in terms of like the 2 players they got. Yep. Young players that they could kind of maybe like be interested in keeping. Patrick Beverley, whatever. Leandro Balmero, whatever. Walker Kessler, whatever.
One's got to play center. Walker Kessler.
Wow. These picks are absurd. 4, bro.
Wolves are confident.
4 for Rudy Gobert? That is, oh my God. Oh my God. This is, I'm telling you, generational ski mask. I did not think, I know there was some chatter on who would get him. I think the the Hawks were like maybe in contention for him. I think the Raptors are interested. This
The
came out of
Bulls,
no,
low
and
key.
the Bulls low key. I remember hearing the Wolves were interested. 4 first rounders, I think is just absolutely nuts. Nuts. You better pray, and I don't think it's gonna happen, that you like win a championship, bro. Because this is like this couldn't end up being one of the worst trades.
Hmm.
And I don't want to downplay Rudy Gobert. I know Rudy Gobert is a good player, and I know he's overhated. Let's be honest. I know the memes are funny and jokes, but like I mean, unless Dame does actually legitimately hates him, so I can't speak for Dame. But like he is a very good player. I'm not trying to make it seem like a scrub, like he's a scrub, but this is the type of move you make for someone that changes the trajectory of your franchise.
Yep.
Rudy Gobert does not do that. I don't know if they think that Gobert and Towns is like Duncan and Robinson 2.0, but that's
Right.
what it seems like they're thinking. So I don't know if D'Angelo Russell stays, but right now, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards, um, Jaden McDaniels, who I think thank God they kept him because
Right.
I am a big fan of Jaden McDaniels and I think he's a very good young piece for them. Karl Anthony Towns goes to the 4 now.
Yep.
And I think he's actually a true 4 jerk. I think he played a 4 in college.
Hmm.
And I think that's his natural position. And now you put Rudy Gobert at the 5. I am so bearish on this fit. I know Cat sucks on defense, but like, and I know he's like adapted to like being like more of a shooter now. But Rudy Gobert is gonna clog that paint, man. So operating in the post isn't gonna be as fluid as you think. I think the appeal, I guess, was to make up for the shortcomings of Cat's defense and just like him trying to be more of like a perimeter player, even though he's fucking 7 feet tall. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's ecstatic with the move, I think, because he doesn't have to play defense. And like that, you see in that first round series against the Grizzlies, Ja just eating them up in the post. They're just like, you know what? We got to fix this. Let's trade the whole next 5 years for Rudy Gobert. It's wild. The fit's going to be interesting to watch. I'm bearish on it. Maybe it could work, but this is not a needle mover, bro. What are the Wolves thinking? Like, they took the crown from the Kings as being like the worst run franchise to me. Because the Kings just had an A off season. This move is at best to me, a C plus, maybe a C. I'm sorry. And maybe like next year it'll look like a B minus, maybe a B, depending on how they perform. This is wow. Oh my God. I cannot believe this move happened. I can't believe this is the package that took to get him. It flipped the NBA on its head. I don't know where the Wolves go from here, bro. I don't know. Like, it's just, we talked about this, Jurgen. I think this is so important. You're either a championship contender or you suck.
Yep.
If you're in the middle, worst.
Purgatory is not a fun place.
Not a fun place. The Minnesota Timberwolves just guaranteed, and I'm willing to bet the bank on this, just guaranteed a spot in NBA purgatory for the next 5 to 6 years. There's no getting out of it. You willingly put yourself in there. It's just, it's hard to put into words that this is what happened. That this is the package it took. Look, maybe it works out for them. Maybe this does, maybe Gobert and Cat do fit each other. It's possible. It's definitely possible, especially because of like the approach Cat is making as like a player, right? But I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think this moves the needle for them. I think this is gonna bite them in the ass so much in the next 5 to 6 years. Dude, I don't know. I want to talk to a level-headed Timberwolves fan about this. Because I know Timberwolves Reddit is probably like convincing themselves that this is a decent move.
Right.
But
they're going to the conference finals according to themselves.
Of course. Yeah. But they should make the playoffs, I think. Different teams have different goals here. I don't know what the Timberwolves are doing. This is Alex Rodriguez's first move. A major move, I believe. And they want to get Rudy Gobert. And I don't know. Thank God I'm not a Timberwolves fan. Because if I was a Timberwolves fan and I saw that was the package to get Rudy Gobert, I would have been crying. Crying. I don't have much to say about it. Go ahead, Jer.
If anyone watches our show and you know a level-headed Timberwolves fan that has a microphone.
Yeah, let us know. Hit us up on SomeWhatSports on IG.
Yes,
get you on the show.
We are more than willing. Like, I don't think we said it before. if you got a mic, ladies and gentlemen, and you're an NBA fan, more than willing to welcome you on to talk
Yeah,
about it for your
or
team.
NFL,
Yeah, or
or
NFL.
NHL,
Like,
NHL.
yeah, like any sport, any team, if you want to come on and talk about it, like let us know.
Open mic, baby,
Open mic night, open mic episodes on the show, ladies and gentlemen, just for future reference, just so we let the
for
people
sure.
know. We're more than willing to let anyone on and tell us. So I'm not going to play devil's advocate for this trade necessarily. I'll play purgatory's advocate for this trade
Jesus,
for a moment.
Jesus.
Um, I get that Minnesota wanted to fix the defense. Like you said, they just got torn up by John Morant and Desmond Bane inside. And I think just defensively at the end of the day, I think the way Minnesota viewed it was that we got decent perimeter defenders. I think Anthony Edwards is a fine enough defender. I think James McDaniels is a pretty good, like you said, young piece, a good perimeter defender. I think their whole thing was we need to add an inside player who can really change things. And Rudy Gobert does that. At the end of the day, kind of like you said, Chris, we can make fun of him as much as we want. We could say that we don't like him, but Rudy Gobert is a multi-time defensive player of the year. He is the best interior defender in the game. That is without question. And Minnesota needed that. And to get a all-star multi-time defensive player there, you do have to give up something. Um, so I do get that. It sucks losing Jared Vanderbilt because he was another good perimeter defender, but I guess they did have to give that up to the Utah Jazz at the end of the day. Walker Kessler is a Malik Beasley is fine. Maybe he will end up being a sixth man of the year candidate for the Utah Jazz this next season because he ain't starting over Donovan Mitchell, obviously. I guess Jordan Clarkson is going to end up starting in Utah if I had to guess. Actually, no, Mike Conley's still there, so who knows? Yeah, so it makes it interesting. I guess we'll probably talk about Utah in a future episode because I think their offseason is still very much like in limbo. Um, I get why Minnesota did this. And like you said, different goals for different teams. At the end of the day, the Minnesota Timberwolves want to be a consistent playoff team. And the play-in does that now. And we are going to see more of these kinds of moves by these teams in the Timberwolves rank because the play-in gives them that shining beacon of hope that if we can get there, anything can happen. And I get it. But now this is where the fun happens. Because never did I think I would see the day, Chris, where a player that cannot shoot 15-foot jump shots is traded for 4 first-round picks, and only
Five if
one
you
of them,
count
Walker Kessler, right?
Kessler, yeah.
Yeah. Sweet Lord above, man. And here's the thing. This is the worst part, actually. Only one of those picks has a protection. Now, I know some people are like, why is that the worst part? You cannot trade picks in consecutive years. So now this handicaps you from future trades involving first-round picks. Unless you do some creative stuff. I don't know, kind of like the NFL is like it's kind of like the salary cap is a social construct in the NFL. NBA draft pick, the Stepien rule, whatever the hell, however the hell you pronounce it, is kind of a social construct.
Stepien.
Stepien, my bad. The Stepien rule is kind of a social construct in the NBA because teams are somehow able to. I'll trade you my 2023 and 2025 first, but 2024 is a pick swap. So you kind of traded 3 in a row, even though you technically still keep that one in the middle. I don't know. It's weird. The Minnesota Timberwolves trading this much for Rudy Gobert is incomprehensible. I don't understand how you think he gets you over the edge of the top teams in the West. Because at the end of the day, Rudy Gobert is a fantastic interior defender. And yes, if you face the Grizzlies again, maybe you might actually beat them because Rudy Gobert is going to help defend Ja
I
Morant.
mean, they should have beat them
Yeah,
in that series. They had them to ropes in the
yeah.
rope, but yeah, go ahead.
And they kept choking. And that's what happens when Karl Anthony Towns doesn't want to be a number one goddamn player. Him we'll get to in a future show because I'm kind of sick of people trying to baby and
Oh
protect
yeah,
him.
and you re-signed, by the way.
Oh, lovely. But Rudy Gobert does not help you beat the Warriors. Rudy Gobert does not help you beat the Nuggets when fully healthy.
Nope.
If the Phoenix Suns were still going to stay together, I would maybe say the Suns, but DeAndre Ayton might be gone, and you could probably bully that team. So maybe it gives you more of a shot against Phoenix. But if they get KD, who knows? Probably not. Like this puts you, like you said, Chris, stuck in purgatory, where maybe at best, at the very best, if teams fall off in the West, you could be the 4th seed. Maybe. But even then, I'm not going to put you in front of the LA Clippers. Congratulations, Minnesota. You beat the LA Clippers in a play-in game where there was no Kawhi Leonard and no Paul George. No duh, you beat them. A lot of teams could have beat them, and you were on home court. Like, the Minnesota Timberwolves just guaranteed a couple things. They guaranteed themselves to be a playoff team. I think they should
Yeah,
still
yeah,
be a playoff team.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They should. They should. They have the talent to.
you guaranteed yourself to be hampered in future trades when trying to improve your team. It limits your assets.
Yep.
You guaranteed that you're good and sometimes great, but you're still not better than the elite teams in the league. And you also guaranteed the fact that come the 2029 NBA draft or 2030, depending on if the protection goes through, that Vegas fans are going to be upset when their Vegas Timberwolves don't have a top draft pick in those years, which
Damn.
will probably see a top tier like elite player. Because knowing the luck of Minnesota, the draft where they don't have their picks, it's going to be a draft where like that 2029 draft class is going to be like a draft of like the next 5 All-Stars that are going to headline the league for years to come. Who the hell knows? Minnesota, man, you royally confused everyone, and you royally pissed off the Suns, the Heat, and other teams trying to trade for KD. Because now it's like Brooklyn sees that, and it's like, about these KD trade offers, gentlemen. Like, you put Rudy Gobert in Christian Kirk territory. That's not a class that you want to be in. It's just not. So I think at the end of the day, the Minnesota Timberwolves just you I why would you make this trade for a guy that cannot adapt to the modern NBA unless you believe for some reason that come the playoffs in the last 5 minutes of the game, unlike with Utah, you can sit Gobert and you can be fine with Cat and the team you have. Maybe if that's the only reason, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you traded 4 first-round picks for a player you can't play in the last 6 minutes of playoff games when it's coming down to the wire. What?
So let me again. I hate the term devil's advocate. I don't want to play devil's advocate for that cesspool in Minnesota right now.
Purgatory's advisor. Let's do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whatever Paul Heyman is to Roman Reigns, basically. But you look at the current roster. Before Gobert, you have D'Angelo Russell, you have Anthony Edwards, you have Jaden McDaniels, you have Karl Anthony Towns. As that's your main 4, right?
Yep.
I'm going to try and speak from what the Timberwolves might be thinking. Because Edwards is on his way, he's on the rise right now, right? That's going to be your guy, right? You got to pay Edwards soon, too, like in 2 years. So they're just like, they're thinking we got to the first round of the playoffs. We could have beaten the Grizzlies. Maybe like the formula to beat the Warriors is size, right? They're thinking we don't need like another primary score, right? We have Edwards, we have Cat, to a lesser extent we have D'Lo, we have our guy who understands his role, Jaden McDaniels, who doesn't need the rock but does is very effective. We don't need another like score guy, right? We need a guy that again fit, right? We need someone that could fill in the gap that we have on our team because without that gap, with that gap, we think we're decent. Now that we filled in that gap, I think they think that their ceiling has just been risen. I think they think this move was necessary, moving the needle, because like it's the type of player that doesn't need to be a scorer, and they think they're on the rise because of how far they made it. Granted, it was the first round, but they think if they clean up some stuff, maybe the second round, and in the second round they would have met Golden State. They think they could be Golden State with some size because that's what Golden State lacks. That's what I'm thinking that they're thinking, right? But I even with Rudy Gobert, I don't even think you'd be Golden State, bro. Yeah, this like, I'm sorry, bro. It's just Rudy Gobert will get eaten alive in the playoffs against Golden State. Let's just be real here, because that's what I think I read, that teams are going to need to like beat us by shooting if they're going to beat the Wolves. Well, yeah, buddy, I'm pretty sure everyone shoots now, and I think the Clippers kind of exposed Rudy Gobert in the playoffs a few years ago, man.
Yep.
It's just, this isn't a groundbreaking strategy you guys are doing. Now, as you were talking coincidentally, John Hollinger, who I don't give a fuck about, I think he's an absolute loser, he wrote something for The Athletic. Funny enough, he wrote about, it was, can the duo of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert work? It was as you were speaking about it. And I was reading, I wasn't reading towards it. I wasn't reading through it. I was just, I kind of skipped through it. I'm just looking at an example here that could be similar to the Cat and Rudy Gobert tandem here. Robert Williams and Al Horford and the Celtics. Right? I think That's a good parallel in terms of like how could this work. Why I don't think it could work is because I think Rudy Gobert and Robert Williams are kind of similar players in terms of like play style. The difference here is that Towns is not as good of a passer as Al Horford. He's not a good defender. I know he's a good scorer, but like I think Horford complements his style of play complements Robert Williams, right?
Yep.
I don't think Karl-Anthony Towns' style complements Rudy Gobert, you know? So there's a lot of things wrong with this. We're just talking about the fit. The package itself is like a catastrophe, right?
Yeah.
I think that's just, we're done here. That package is just crazy. I think the fit here is if I'm a Wolves fan, that's where the uncertainty comes to play. It's so hard to see this working. Like, I don't know how it's going to play out. For good or for bad, I just don't know how it's going to look. Like, it's one thing I can't put my eye on. If I was a betting degenerate man, I would bet that it doesn't work to its fullest. I think there's a possibility it could work because Cat is becoming like more of a shooter now. So it could work. I can't see it being so sustainable. If it's a fix, it's a temporary fix. I don't know. I just know that this is just talk about a domino effect. Talk
Right.
about a domino effect, man. This is gonna be again different goals for different people, different goals for different teams. But like if a move like this, with a package like this, you definitely got to be having some championship aspirations here. But you can't be like, I don't know, non-championship teams having championship aspirations is just so funny to me because they just mortgage their future. They're not gonna win.
Right.
Edwards will be alone in the desert in like 5 to 6 years, bro. You're gonna eventually have to use Cat as a trade chip
Yeah.
to like make up for the shit you lost for Gobert, in my opinion.
Or to get another player there to
Yeah.
put alongside. Like I will say this, maybe just last comment because we're at the very end of the show
Go
here.
ahead.
My biggest thing about that comparison between like with Horford and Williams versus Gobert and Towns, Horford is a better defender than Karl-Anthony Towns even at this age, and Al Horford has more will and more heart than Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
If Giannis did to Cat what he did to Horford, Cat ain't scoring 30 points to finish the game or whatever the heck Al Horford did to Giannis. Like, he's not going to dunk on Giannis however many possessions later. He would get punked out and he would lose that game. Because the Memphis Grizzlies did that to him. What the heck would Giannis Antetokounmpo do to him first? And second, Robert Williams, Rudy Gobert. Again, I know I praised Rudy Gobert's interior defense. Like, Robert Williams is closer to Bam defensively as he can guard the perimeter when healthy. Don't let the fact he was injured with a torn meniscus this whole goddamn playoffs make you forget that if Robert Williams was healthy this whole season, he probably could have and should have been the defensive player of the year, not Marcus Smart, because he is a better perimeter defender as a big man than Rudy Gobert. So that, to me, that comparison is null and void. Like, Rudy Gobert is not the perimeter defender Robert Williams is, and Karl-Anthony Towns is not the defender, is not the passer, is not the dog that Al Horford is.
Ooh, we got a little spicy there, Jurg.
So
I
no,
like it. That was
I'm
kind
not
of hot, bro. That was kind of hot.
I'm not buying this at all. No, bro.
No,
they're not going to miss the playoffs, but I hope Minnesota screws this up at the end of the day. Like,
Oh,
this
they are.
is a terrible deal.
Well, I agree with you. I see the similarities between the Horford and the Robert Williams comparison. Like, I see that. I see where they're going with that. I just, I like Chris Finch, but he's not the coach that Ime Udoka is. I don't know. It's just, you're right. I think the skill sets, put them aside. I just think who they are as people, the characters of like Karl-Anthony Towns and Al Horford. That's the reason why it's not the exact same thing. You know, again, like Cat has no heart, but you better have heart, man, because this team, this is what you're going with. You're going to go into battle with this. And it's just like, I mean, look, Donovan Mitchell has one of the most heart on his sleeve players in the NBA, and he didn't like playing with Rudy Gobert. Cat doesn't have a heart in his sleeve, and he's going to be playing with Rudy Gobert. I don't know. It's going to be so weird to see how this pans out. I'm curious. I'll be watching. Minnesota fans, I hope you guys are alive and well, because this is, oh man, this is going to be a very long next 5 years for them, bro. Oof.
Even longer, because 2029, like, and that pick, if they keep it that year, it's going to go to 2030. This is the next 7 to 8 years.
We'll be in our 30s, bro, and this shit just...
Jesus Christ.
I don't want to talk about this. All right, that'll do it for this week. My God, what an episode, Jurg. Shit will happen by next week that we'll talk about. Dame will be back, I think. There'll be NHL news. I think we'll talk about football a little bit more going forward because the season's right around the corner. There's just bound to be more NBA news. DeAndre Ayton has still not been dealt, but I think this whole KD thing has kind of like put a halt on everything. So yeah, I kind of plugged it in before. I'll do it now again. SomeWhatSports on Instagram. You can follow us there. Jurg said it, like, if you listen to this show and you have a mic or some type of decent audio, hit us up, DM us. We'd love to have you on Chat Sports. You can find us on Spotify, SomeWhatSports. You'll see our logo there, same one as the YouTube one. You can listen to us there. Yeah, I think I've covered all the grounds here. Right?
Yes, sir. And I mean, just one more reminder to the people: 5 stars on Spotify, like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And for the weekly podcast we put out, Chris said it several times during this episode, but we'll say it again: the Somewhat Sports Summer of 2022 is alive, it's roaring, it's going, and we do that every single week, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, for sure. Jurg, phenomenal job. Love going to battle with you. Dame, we do not miss you. Well, we just stay in Vegas forever. To all the listeners listening, if you made it this far, it's going to be a longest episode, but I don't care because it was a fun conversation. If you made it this far, thank you very much. And until next time, peace.